Hello, my name's Ian Hall. I'm the Chief Examiner of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, and this is the CASC examiner briefing. Thank you very much, everybody, for being an examiner, and we really appreciate your input. So I'm just going to run through a few things. The exam format, I think people will know it's 8 stations in the morning, 8 stations in the afternoon. From the point of view of an examiner, we're only doing 8 candidates. You'll only see 8 candidates in the morning and then a further 8 candidates, different candidates in the afternoon. In the morning, we have the longer reading time sessions, 4 minutes, and in the afternoon, we have the shorter reading time sessions. So this is the more detailed timetable for the day. We've worked on this timetable. It's a bit more compressed than it was when we first ran the online CASC. So we have slightly shorter standardization meetings, and we make sure that everyone gets a lunch break. Just to talk about the different roles, lead examiners are really, really important. You should have had some separate briefing information if you're a lead examiner. They run the standardization meetings, and it's these standardization meetings that really ensure the reliability of the exam. So the whole objective of these is to make sure that all the examiners understand what level, what standard we're applying, and make sure that it's a fair exam for everyone. And then, of course, we have the meeting with the role players to standardize their performance as well. One of the examiners has the fortunate job of playing a candidate when we do a role play of the station. This is a really a privilege to be asked to do this, so please do that, and we really thank you for doing that. Don't forget, you're playing a borderline candidate, so you don't need to be particularly skilled at the station, so thanks for doing that. We have circuit leads who are in charge of the rotations. They're members of college staff, and they're a conduit for communication. All the invigilators are in communication with them, for example, and they help us with managing incidents, and particularly if we need to rerun any stations at the end of the examination. We have various members of the CASC panel on hand. We have a senior invigilator, and also we have the clinical invigilation team. So these sort of oversee the exam. They'll confirm if we need to annul candidates. They'll share expertise. They'll support the standardization process. And they can act as super reserves, so they can go in as reserves to any station because they're very familiar with the examination. So I'm sure you'll come across them probably in your standardization meetings. We have a marking supervisor who's checking all the marks as they come in, and will alert you if by any chance you've missed one of the marks. And we also have they also check all the marks at the end, and this is why you may have to wait a little while to make sure that all your marks are in before we release you. So the day runs pretty similar in the morning and the afternoon. We have the standardization meetings, then you log in, then you see 8 candidates, you might have some reruns and then have a lunch break, and then similar in the afternoon. So the examiner documents, you'll have been sent all your documents in advance. So that's the construct, the candidate instructions, the domain-based marking guidance, and the examiner briefing notes. These are all, of course, confidential, and the integrity of the exam relies on you keeping these confidential. So you must delete these files when the examination is over, and obviously it's a serious probity issue if you don't follow those rules. You can also access all these documents in the Practique system if you need to check on them when you're doing the examining and seeing the candidates. The standardization meetings, as we did, we now run these with Zoom. These go very well usually. So it starts with just the examiners, and then we have the role players come in. We send out pre-populated standardization forms from when we've previously standardized the station. So we use these as a basis for discussion now, and the feedback we've had about this is very good, and examiners find this very helpful. And at the end of the standardisation meeting, as I was saying, we have a run through. Again, this is very, very helpful for pitching how you're going to mark the station. And it's very helpful for the actors as well about how to pitch it. So thanks for participating in that. Some candidates have special arrangements. Usually this is extra time. So this actually needn't concern you because they have extra reading time before they present to you. You wouldn't particularly know about that. But there are some candidates that might have other adjustments, in which case you'll be informed about that. For example, someone with a hearing impairment or something like that. It's really important to maintain synchronous rotations. So within the circuit, so you'll be told by the invigilator when to move on. In terms of marking, it's we can't move the rotation on until your marks are in. So please mark promptly. Usually after the first iteration of the station, you'll become very quick at marking them, and the candidate can't see you marking, unlike in the live exam. So you can start to put the marks in before the candidate has finished, although you definitely want to leave your overall judgment until the candidate has finished. Please do the feedback. You need to do feedback statements for any candidate who overall judgment is at borderline pass or below, so that we have a reason for why they haven't performed so well. You just need to put yes for the statements that you agree with. You can leave the other ones untouched. The result of that means you will have unanswered questions at the end, but that's fine. So just put a yes for the feedback statements that you think apply for that candidate. Candidates really appreciate that, so please do that. Occasionally we do reruns. This is usually because a technical issue has arisen. We really try and limit the reruns, but we do have space for 1 or 2 reruns at the end of the circuit, so you might be asked to do that. So thanks very much if you do that. You'll have to go back to the candidate on Practique, and you'll have to delete the previous marks and just reset and mark from a fresh perspective. This is the marking within Practique. Hopefully you've all seen this before and have practiced it. So you can see there the different elements of the station information. You can see them all. The candidates obviously only see the candidate instructions. There's an overview menu which is illustrated here, which you might find helpful. You must compare candidates to the standard that you've agreed. So you shouldn't be comparing one candidate to another. Your job is to compare candidates to the standard. It may be that all the candidates meet the standard. It may be none of the candidates meet the standard, but you must compare to the standard. And this is integral to the quality of the exam. So thanks for doing that. Yeah, this is just pointing out the overview menu, which you can use to navigate between rounds, and also between the different candidates. This is the main thing that you're marking, which is the competency domain. So these are listed first. So you need to mark these on the 5-point scale, of which 3 is the midpoint, which you'll have discussed in the standardization meeting. There's usually 3 or 4 and occasionally 5 competency domains. And then afterwards, at the end, as I said, you need to do the overall judgment, which is a 6-point scale between severe fail and excellent pass. This we use to set the overall standard of the examination. So the candidates' individual mark is determined on the domain scores, but the overall standard is all pooled, and that's how we judge the pass mark using borderline regression. And then, as I said before, do the detailed feedback, but you only need to say yes to the ones that apply. In the event of problems, have you tried turning it off and on again? So we have a phone number that you can use, which goes to the college. If your Practique session ends for any reason, just go back to the login screen and re-enter your credentials, and that should take you back to where you were to where you left. But do let us know about any problems, and we may be able to give you some tips to solve those. But we've become much more expert at doing this, so yeah, please let us know if there's any issues. Your conduct in the exam, yeah, the candidates can see you on the screen at all times, so do try and maintain a neutral expression when they're there. Try not to fidget. Definitely try to look awake, and certainly don't take calls or do work when you're doing the examination task. We do now have a mute button on the platform, so you should be using that so that any extraneous noise doesn't distract the candidate. And please don't leave your PC during the actual exam except during the approved 10-minute break. So there is a 10-minute break after the first 4 candidates, and this is for everyone, to make sure everyone can take a comfort break. But if people take breaks outside that time, it really delays the exam. So please don't do that. And the invigilators, of course, will report any breaches of these rules. Yeah, communications, don't speak to anyone else when the candidate's in the station, but if it's urgent, you can speak to the role player or the invigilator, but only when the 3 of you are present. After the first iteration of the station, sometimes it's useful just to briefly check in with the role player, as we used to do at Sheffield. But please have your phone on silent, but we might need it to call you if there are any issues. So when the candidate is there, they can hear you at all times unless you press that mute button. We did have an incident in a recent examination where, although the candidate wasn't visible, the candidate could hear what was being discussed. So please don't discuss anything to do with the candidate. Please keep your discussion when the candidate's not there to things that are entirely appropriate. So yeah, because we obviously don't want incidents like that. So don't discuss the candidates with the invigilator or the role player. We'll do a survey after the exam. It's really helpful for us to get feedback on stations. We use that all the time to improve stations. Obviously, these stations are really complex in terms of the way they're written. So it's really helpful if you identify inconsistencies or have other feedback to give us. So please do that. It's really helpful. And finally, yeah, thank you very much. We have in the first few months, we delivered the exam to over 1,000 candidates, and it's gone pretty well for most people. And we really appreciate you giving your time to be an examiner. And it's really important for maintaining and improving standards in psychiatry, and you know, and the effect that has on the mental health of the people that we serve. So thanks again. Thank you.